I'm Tony Silvernail. I'm an organic, small farm organic grower here in Franklin County, Kentucky. Prior to this, I was a researcher at the local university. I started my farm here in 2017. We didn't start actually on this site. We started at another place in the county. I moved here to this site in 2011. I've now going with my farm full time since 2017. I sort of gave up working at the university and I'm doing this now full time. I wear many hats. Obviously, I'm a grower, but I'm also a transition trainer. The Organic Association of Kentucky, who I work for as a transition trainer, they're an advocacy group. They advocate for consumers of organic products, growers of organic products, and just almost anything organic. They set up this transition training program where I go around the state and work with growers, setting up their what's called their organic systems plan and getting their ground certified organic and their production certified organic. So I wear that hat, and now Dr. Sean Lucas and myself, we started the Kentucky Organic Hemp Co-op. We started that last year. We're still in the process of taking a beating, and from last year, like a lot of growers, and we're working on still selling our 2019 product. 2020, we're sort of laying low. We're grow some, but we're not going to go full tilt like we did last year. So my main thing though, is the fact that I am an organic grower and being a transition trainer, sort of icing on the cake, where I get to go help other growers throughout the state. And it's been interesting the last 2 years seeing the number of growers that are looking at organic, and they're looking at hemp being their first organic crop. So that's been sort of exciting, seeing that. And that's why I sort of coined I shouldn't say I coined the phrase, but I started using the phrase hemp the gateway crop, because people are looking at wanting to get into organic. Hemp is their first organic crop. And then the next question is, what do we do after hemp? And that's sort of where I can come in as a transition trainer and work with growers throughout the state. And I've worked with some growers down in Florida, Minnesota, Michigan, Indiana. So I've been traveling a little bit, and actually some in Tennessee too. So it's catching on, and it's real exciting for me. For me, hemp is another spoke in the wheel for me. Being an organic grower, one of the things as an organic grower and a transition trainer, and now actually as an organic inspector, which I'll be this summer, hemp is part of a diversified production system. All the small scale farmers, such as myself, that are here in the state, hemp is not just the end all for growers. They're actually looking at that in a rotation. Okay, what else can I grow with this? What else should I rotate into? What should I grow before this to get the ground ready? So for me, I really truly believe it will be a viable economic crop. But I think looking at it as another spoke in the wheel that can help me stay on the farm and help other growers stay on the farm. I think looking at the total economics of it, even with the price falling, it's still as good as most vegetables that are being grown out there. So I really truly believe it will work. People are not going to be able to grow it and retire to a beach house in Florida. That's not going to happen. But it is. It will be a good viable crop. And right now the big craze is CBD, but I think some of the larger small scale farmers, people that may have 50 to 100 acres, and I think the next step in our evolution here with hemp will be getting the fiber, will be getting the grain. We've been very fortunate here in this state to have Victory Hemp, where they're here in this state and they're actively, desperately begging growers here in this state to produce hemp grain. So I really believe that will be another viable crop for people that are maybe larger than me, but not up to like 1,000-acre row crop. And I mean, actually, if we could get them in Western Kentucky that way, that would be awesome too. But for hemp, the idea is it's just going to work nicely with everything else that I do. And that's what hemp means to me. One of the products that I have a great affinity for is obviously the CBD products. As I told you earlier, 3 weeks ago, I separated my shoulder. Well, I had a stupid youth issue of playing contact sports in high school and college. So I had bad knees and feet. So 3 years ago, we had the HIA conference in Lexington. And before that, I've heard a lot about CBD. I read some. I really wasn't quite buying into it. But I got a bunch of free samples. It's the best way to get somebody hooked. Get them a free sample. They gave me a bunch of free samples at that, and I started taking them, and I started to realize, oh my God, my knees don't hurt, my feet don't hurt, and so for me, it helps me in my active work environment and my active life. It works really well for that. And I told you recently, I separated my shoulder, so I'm now actively when I don't take the topical, when I don't put the topical on, when I don't take it, I feel it. So for me, I mean, for the CBD, it's a great product for me from that sense. And actually, it helps my parents who have slight Parkinson. My mom, it helps her with their shakes and it helps her with her nervousness, which is great. So there's a lot of components to that. But that's some of the hemp products. I do love hemp hearts. I get hemp hearts from Good Foods all the time. And here again, I'm a shameless plug for Victory Hemp, but that's all right. And we get them from them. So it's a great food crop. Fiber, I don't have much experience with that yet. Unfortunately, all the hemp clothes that I've seen, they don't make them for the fat boy yet. They're all like jockey European size. So I have not found any hemp shirts, clothes that fit me yet. So please, anybody out there, I want a hemp shirt that's like 2X tall or 3X, please. You know what I'm talking about. You can't find it. But I think there's a lot of products out there that have yet to be developed. I mean, the plastics, obviously, the renewable nature of this for paper. I think as we go forward, and as I mentioned earlier, getting other growers into this as we evolve with this crop, I think it would be great for limiting carbon footprint. And I mean, there's just a lot of different products. But for me, my world centers around CBD because I became a believer because of the results. And that's why, obviously, you know, it's great to grow something that you actually believe in. Everything from production, I mean, to production, harvest, you know, processing, marketing, you know, everybody knows that's in the hemp world. I mean, there's been a lot of challenges this past year. I think we saw last year from a production standpoint, there was a lot of issues that came in that we've never saw before. You know, I'm a ground pounder. I'm not the type that looks at it from a 30,000 foot view. I get on the ground, and that's where I like to be. One of the problems we saw with production last year was we had disease coming in. We had a field over here, a half acre, that just got disease ridden. We had, I'm bad about this, but we actually had a plant pathologist from UK come out, take samples, look at that, and they're finding this being such a new crop that they're finding disease issues that are coming in. You're also seeing bug issues, you know, invertebrates that are coming in. How do we control that? I'm going to be part of a group entomology study from UK looking at birds and, you know, birds incidents for controlling certain insects and stuff in hemp. So it being new, there's a lot of wrinkles to iron out just from a production standpoint. And then you have your issues with the marketing, with it being saturated, with processors not following through, with the limitations on processors getting your product into the market. Here again, that's sort of beyond my gate, beyond my farm gate, but it does affect me directly, obviously. So, I mean, those are some of the issues. And I think just some of the issues, too, with educating not just consumers but growers to be realistic about this. It is a good crop. I really do believe in the products of it, but they got to be realistic in their expectations for production and the payout from that, because we're still in the learning phases of this, and this is such a new crop. You know, you say, well, I've been doing this for 5 years. Well, you know, people have been doing soy for like 70 and corn for 200. And so, you know, this is new. From soil to oil, there's a lot of wrinkles to iron out. One of the great things, too, is bringing researchers in, bringing institutions, whether it be 1890s, such as Sean Lucas here at Kentucky State University, or some of the UK or Colorado State, some of the 1860s. I think bringing them in directly into this, where HIA, like you said, has shifted from an advocacy group, you know, lobbying, to more like, okay, how do we actually get this rocket off the pad now? How do we launch this? And part of it is education. Part of it is connecting the dots. Researchers with growers, with extension people. We have that whole thing that has not yet really been fully developed. And everybody still's got misconceptions. And I mean, I think we're partly to blame for that with the hemp. Everybody wants to look at its sister, yeah, the high THC, the high THC cannabis plants, whereas hemp is not that, and the products are totally different from that. So, I mean, that's going to be part of the education where it's not illegal, and it's not fringe anymore. I think HIA is that will be a great. I've seen where what I've been told now, sort of the shift working with small growers, and part of the issues with keeping people sustainable in this, you can get people to jump in, but they're going to jump right back out though too, unless they can sustain it. So how do we sustain it? Education is obviously the big thing, but you got to get that knowledge base out there. And a lot of that is connecting the dots with the university, with growers too that have years and years of experience. How do you bring them into the fold? I admit I'm new to the hemp world. I'm not new to the organic world. I've been in organics for over 2 decades. So I'm very familiar with that, but bringing hemp in, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And I think connecting the dots from, okay, what they're doing here, what they're doing over there, may not always fit directly, but it may open a line of questioning that can help both parties. Like what people are doing in Colorado and Oregon may not fit here in Kentucky directly just because we're different grow, we're different soils, different climates, everything. However, it may open a line of questioning, and HIA being in the position that they're at can help direct that, can help that flow of information, can help direct the connection with the people. So that's what's sort of exciting for me and everything. And looking at it, like what you were saying, that it can be such an integral component of a grower, but we're not there yet. So the idea is, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, we will get to that point. But it's not going to be an overnight deal. And that's what I'm real excited about, is a long-term commitment on this. One of the things that I first learned with this plant last year is it's not as wimpy as people made it out to be. People were saying, oh, you had to do this, you had to do that. And me being a soil scientist and biochemist, I was like, I'm going to sort of push this a little bit just to see what it does. And I was really surprised how durable a plant it actually is. The CBD plant is. We looked at, ours were started directly from seed. So we had a great taproot. We had a drought last summer, and it was phenomenal in the drought. We irrigated, but you really can't keep up with a 5-foot plant with drip line. So it did hold its own through about 6 weeks in drought, and when we got a rain, it just Lazarus. It just totally bloomed back. It was great. From a producer standpoint, that's one of the great things I learned, was how durable and good a plant this can be. However, it is susceptible. We do have some issues that do have to be worked out, and that's more of a genetics. I think that's being done. But the versatility, like you said, and your grow conditions, what's your legacy? It can be used for bioremediation. I would like to see it used too as building the soil, not just for bioremediation, but for actually improving soil health. That's one of the things that Dr. Lucas is looking at, is how this actually can help improve health of the soil. It's got such a huge taproot and great root system. How can it be looked at as working with the soil? And there's a lot of questions about it, but from what I've seen with it and its ability to do what it does, I'm really impressed with it. One of the great things about small farms is they're part of the small communities. So they're directly integrated into whatever community they're part of. The best thing beyond just that is the fact that you're keeping money within that community. You're actually providing fresh produce to that community. You have a personal relationship with that community. I am a small farmer. I have a great relationship I consider Lexington and Louisville sort of my community, along with Frankfort. I have great relationships with these growers. I get money locally, I spend it locally, and that's one of the great things I think with hemp that we can do once we start processing it locally. This will all be part of this local economy. And as I mentioned earlier, the fact what COVID has done has really exposed the need for local food system, for the reemergence of local economies. And I think a great catalyst for this will be the small farms, because we're already well situated, we're well networked, we can do this and help bring smaller communities back. And as we've seen in Eastern Kentucky, we have co-ops that are working together that are trying to get into bigger markets. But here again, it's over in Carter County, in that area, how getting it into Lexington, but that money actually staying in the state and not going out to California or the coast or South America. Economically, it just helps everybody concerned. And environmentally, your footprint is way less. So there's benefits all the way around with that. It's a matter of setting expectations. Start small. And small being, and this is sort of like the industry standard, what small is. Small is how much can you lose that season with that crop. So if you go above that and you start extending your credit or start putting yourself in financial danger with something new, you're setting yourself up for failure. And you're not setting yourself up to be sustainable in the long term. You got to look at this as you're going to have failures. You know, I've been growing stuff since I was a kid. You know, I've been on my own farm here for 14 years now. But, you know, I'm still learning. I still make mistakes. I still find out, like, what the hell am I doing? Why did I just get kicked in the crotch? You know, it's sort of like I should have seen that. What's really encouraged me with HIA is the fact that their emphasis has changed. I really like the leadership that's now there, that they're looking at small scale farmers. They're going away from what you were talking about as far as the advocacy component and looking at supporting growers. You know, how do we help them answer the questions that they need? That's sort of that's drawing me in right now. And I really enjoy that. And, you know, there's going to be questions that come up that we don't even know yet that are there, you know. So, and I think we're seeing that. We saw that last year, and I'm sure we're going to see it this year. And I'm really hoping, and I really truly expect with the leadership that they have now at HIA, that they will be able to be flexible enough to be able to work on those questions and help the small scale growers that we have here, not just in Kentucky, but North Carolina, Tennessee, you know, Colorado, and everybody like that. It's food, it's dietary supplement, it's fiber, it's a fuel. Hemp, it's healing for the body, for the farm, and for the soil.